Welcome back, everybody. Today we're diving into something I think we've all thought about, reaching that native-like fluency in English. Getting to that point where people can't tell you weren't born speaking it. And, I actually have some interesting stories and insights from my own journey toward fluency.
Oh, wow. So you're saying there was like a real turning point for you.
Yeah, absolutely. For years, I was stuck in a rut, learning grammar rules, memorizing vocabulary, doing all the traditional stuff. It helped for sure. But it never got me to that like effortless fluency I was really craving. You know what I mean? I bet I read like 60 books on language learning, all promising these crazy shortcuts and secret methods.
Yeah, I've definitely been there. It's like you hit a wall and those traditional methods just don't seem to cut it anything.
Right, exactly. And none of them seemed to really work. Like they were missing something. Then it finally hit me. The key was repetition. Not just like passively listening, but actively repeating phrases and sentences over and over again.
Interesting. Most people would probably say you need a quiet space to really focus on language learning. Why do you think practicing in noisy environments worked so well for you?
I think it forced my brain to really zero in on the sounds of the language. Imagine trying to repeat a news report on a crowded subway.
Okay, yeah.
There's so much noise and distractions everywhere. To even hear the words, let alone repeat them, your brain has to kick into overdrive.
It's like lifting weights. If you want to get stronger, you have to challenge your muscles.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about improving my pronunciation either. The constant repetition helped me internalize the rhythm and flow of English, the way native speakers naturally chunk words and phrases together.
So it's about more than individual words or sounds. It's about grasping the music of the language, how it all fits together.
Yes, precisely. And the results were amazing. Within 6 months, I noticed a huge difference. My accent softened. I was speaking more fluidly. I even felt more confident expressing myself.
That's a pretty incredible transformation in just 6 months. So what you're saying is you didn't need some complicated method, just a simple, focused approach.
Exactly. And that's actually what I want to share with everyone today. I call it the Fluent English Formula. It's all about 3 key steps: setting a clear goal, taking consistent action, and most importantly, following through.
Those steps sound pretty straightforward, but I'm sure there's more to them than meets the eye. Let's break them down, shall we? Starting with setting a goal. What does a good language learning goal actually look like? It's easy to just say, oh, I want to be fluent, but like, what does that actually mean? How can we set goals that we can actually work towards?
That's a great point. Can't just be like a vague wish. You really got to think about why you want to improve your English. Like, what do you want to be able to do? Is it travel the world with confidence, get that dream job, or maybe just have deeper conversations with friends from different cultures?
Yeah, that makes sense. Having a clear purpose can be really motivating. When things get tough, it can help to remember why you started in the first place.
It's like having a North Star guiding your journey.
Right.
Once you've got that clear vision, then it's time to take action. And for me, the most effective action was honestly pretty simple. Just listen and repeat.
Okay, I'm curious about your process. What did your practice actually look like?
So I would grab my headphones, find a quiet spot, or a lot of times a not so quiet spot,
Yeah.
like on the subway,
Yeah.
and just totally immerse myself in spoken English podcasts, news broadcasts, audiobooks, anything spoken by native speakers, really.
So you were surrounding yourself with the real deal, exposing yourself to the natural rhythms and nuances of everyday English.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's the important part. I wouldn't just passively listen. I would actively repeat what I was hearing, trying my best to match the speaker's pronunciation, intonation, everything.
Well, you were really engaging with material, making a conscious effort to absorb it all.
Yep. And let me tell you, when you're trying to repeat a complicated sentence while a train's rumbling by,
Yeah.
your brain definitely has to work for it.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it so effective.
It's like that idea of desirable difficulty in learning. Making things a bit challenging can actually help you learn better.
Right. And another technique that really helped me was recording myself speaking. It might feel kind of awkward at first, but it's so revealing.
I know a lot of language learners who hate listening to recordings of themselves. What did you find valuable about it?
It helped me catch those little things I wasn't even aware of. Maybe a slight mispronunciation or a weird intonation pattern. It's like having another set of ears helping you identify areas to improve.
It's a way to become more aware of how you actually sound versus how you think you sound.
Exactly. And it's not just about finding mistakes. It's also super motivating to hear yourself improving over time.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm actually getting better at this.
Okay, so we've got a clear goal. We're actively engaging with authentic materials, and we're using self-recording to fine-tune our pronunciation. What about the third step in your fluent English formula, following through?
This is where it all comes together. Fluency isn't really a destination. It's more like a journey. And like any journey, there are going to be bumps in the road.
That's true. Motivation can come and go. Life gets in the way. How did you stay consistent and keep moving forward, even when you didn't really feel like it?
Honestly, for me, it was all about making practice a habit, something I did automatically, like brushing my teeth. To do that, you got to make it enjoyable,
Yeah.
something you actually look forward to.
That's a great point. If you hate practicing, you're not going to stick with it. So how did you find that enjoyment in your language learning?
Well, it starts with choosing materials that genuinely interest you. You know, if you love podcasts, make that your main practice activity. If you're a movie buff, watch films in English with subtitles.
Make it feel less like work and more like something you actually want to do.
Exactly. And don't stress about being perfect right away. It's about making progress, not reaching perfection. Even a few minutes of focused practice each day can make a huge difference over time.
Consistency over intensity. Those small, sustainable habits are often the key to long-term success.
It's like they say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. If you haven't been practicing consistently, don't beat yourself up. Just start now, even 5 minutes, and watch those efforts add up over time.
Speaking of adding up, I'm curious to hear more about the specific tools and techniques that helped accelerate your progress. Are there any resources you found particularly helpful?
We've talked a lot about listening and repeating, but something that really helped me take my fluency to the next level was actually focusing on body language.
Oh, that's interesting. Most people think of language as just words. But you're right. Nonverbal cues play a huge role in how we communicate.
It's like that saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And a big part of that how is your body language, your facial expressions, your gestures, even your posture.
It's true. Studies have shown that a lot of our communication is actually nonverbal. So even if your grammar and pronunciation are perfect, if your body language is sending mixed signals, it can create a disconnect.
Exactly. Think about it. When native speakers talk, they don't just stand there stiffly. They use their hands, their facial expressions change, their whole body gets involved. It adds a whole other layer of meaning and nuance to their words.
So how can language learners start incorporating body language into their practice? It seems like a pretty subtle thing to master.
Well, one technique that really helped me was something called mirroring. I would watch videos of native speakers, pay close attention to their body language, and then try to imitate it while I was practicing.
Mirroring. It's like learning by doing. You're not just memorizing rules, you're actually experiencing the language in action.
It's like learning a dance by watching a professional dancer. You're not just learning the steps, you're absorbing the rhythm, the flow, the overall feeling of the movement.
So by mirroring native speakers, you're not just learning words and grammar, you're internalizing the nonverbal cues that make their communication so natural and expressive.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. It's like adding another layer of authenticity to your spoken English.
We've talked about mirroring, but are there other nonverbal things language learners should pay attention to?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Another big one is intonation. The way your voice rises and falls as you speak. Native speakers use intonation to convey emotion, emphasis, even sarcasm. It's like adding punctuation to your speech.
Yeah, intonation can be tricky. It's often very subtle and it varies between languages. You might not even realize you're doing it wrong.
Absolutely.
Right.
But it can have a huge impact on how you're perceived and how well people understand you. To practice, listen to audiobooks or podcasts and try to mimic the speaker's tone of voice.
Like training your ear to hear those subtle shifts in pitch and tone, and then training your voice to do the same thing.
And don't be afraid to exaggerate a bit at first. It might feel silly, but it helps you become more aware of how intonation can change the meaning of what you're saying.
It's like those early piano lessons where you had to practice scales over and over. It might have felt boring, but it built the foundation for everything else.
And just like with piano scales, the more you practice intonation, the more natural it becomes.
Yeah.
You'll start to notice that your spoken English sounds more expressive, more engaging, and more authentic.
It's about moving beyond simply speaking the language to actually embodying it.
And that's what true fluency is all about, right? Connecting with people on a deeper level, expressing yourself authentically, feeling confident in your ability to communicate. It's not about erasing your own identity, but about enriching it with the power of another language.
I love that fluency isn't just a finish line. It's an ongoing journey of learning and growth.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, I encourage you to embrace this journey. Find what works for you. Make practice a habit. And don't be afraid to experiment and have fun along the way.
And remember, the most important step is the one you take today. So go out there, put these ideas into practice, and see what incredible things you can achieve.
Until next time, happy practicing.